Hey guys, I decided to share with you my current 0.5 league starter, the grenade Deadeye. So here, as you can see, we are in tier 15 maps with some irradiated modifiers. So we have monster level 80, and I'm doing the Abyss with Rogue Exiles strategy, also with Amonamo mods. And here you can also, by the way, check the full modifiers of the map here at the end after the boss fight. Because this map is pretty difficult. I'm playing with over 250% increased chance for rare monster modifiers. So all of these rares are pretty dangerous in this map, and yeah, it's also the enemies are pretty tanky with more monster life, but it goes pretty well. I think still this is one of the best league starters so far. The cool thing is also that we can just play the same skills that we used in the campaign speedrun. You can switch to some explosive shot setup, so you don't have to wait until your grenades explode. And with explosive shot you can just manually explode them or detonate them. But I just kept the original campaign speedrun setup from Guy That Dies. Again, shoutouts to him. This build is based on his speedrun version for the campaign. And yeah, it's still like we just keep the skills that we use in the campaign, and it's just pretty good. So here you can see we are fighting the Amonamo mods, monsters, and hope for the Omen of Lights drops. And yeah, like I mentioned, you can swap to some different setups, but for now I just enjoy the setup. Sometimes it can be tricky to fight, especially Rogue Exiles. I think I also have a clip here somewhere. So the problem with Rogue Exiles is that they just move a lot, so with grenades it's a little bit of a problem. But for that reason we can also use gas grenades, so you don't actually have to use all the buttons, by the way, that you see in the skill bar. But gas grenades are pretty good because they explode immediately if the ground is ignited or burned. And for that reason it's pretty good to fight these Rogue Exiles if you also want to go for that strategy. Otherwise it's a little bit annoying with grenades to kill these Rogue Exiles just because they're so fast moving. But yeah, that's something I just wanted to showcase you about the build. As you can see here, a lot of monster density is not a problem. Grenades just have huge AoE damage, huge area of effects. Also massive damage. Here you can quickly take a look at the boss fight. Here we have a little bit more difficult boss fight with two bosses at the same time. But my build is very tanky, as I can prove also to you in a second with some numbers from Path of Building. We are sitting at above 70k effective health, and this is just completely without energy shields. So if you also want to play Deadeye with grenades, but you feel squishy or don't know how to fix your effective health problems, then maybe this can also inspire you. And here you can, by the way, check the mods. So we also have, like I mentioned, over 250% increased chance of monster modifiers, even 50% more. Magic and rare monsters, so yeah, a lot of dangerous elites here, also more monster life and monster 80. Okay, let's jump into the build. So first of all, yeah, I want to show you this PoE setup that I exported from my Path of Building. As you can see here right now, I'm level 93, explosive grenade Deadeye. And here you can see my EHP is at 77,000. So we have pretty nice max hits, even for chaos damage, for example. So pretty much all elemental and chaos are pretty high. And at the same time, we have pretty high evade chance as well. So right now I'm sitting at 76% evasion, 81% armor. You can also see, for example, damage reduction against elemental damage, 47%. And 29 against chaos. And if I use my skill as a Deadeye, we also benefit from the Tailwind skill. So here, as I stack up this, or build up the stacks, you can see my evasion even goes higher to over 70%, and this will get even higher when I hit enemies, because this will also increase my evasion rating. And we are also sitting at deflection rate of about 80%. And again, with Tailwind, we have 50% damage prevented of deflection instead of 40. So yeah, this makes our character pretty tanky overall. So again, quick demonstration of the skill rotation. For the clear, for the trash clear, you either use cluster grenade for this huge AoE explosions. It has a pretty long cooldown, so you can't spam it as often, but you just use it against huge monster density areas. And for smaller packs, you can just use your flash grenade, and this will also one-shot trash monsters and even blue monsters quite often. And then for bosses, you use a combination of oil grenade, and then you just spam explosive grenade. And if you have cooldown problems with explosive grenade, you can also sneak in some gas grenades in between. But if you don't have mana issues, if you don't have cooldown reduction problems, you can also just spam explosive grenade. This is by far the highest amount of damage. Then we also use War Banner for more damage against bosses and rogue exiles, and I still use Pounce, just like in the campaign, for more mobility. So yeah, this is the setup. Again, you don't have to use all of the skills. You also can just delete gas grenade and oil grenade if you like. This will make it more for one button build. But I really like gas grenade against rogue exiles, like I mentioned, especially with oil grenade. You can use oil grenade to detonate your gas grenade automatically, because the ground will be burned or ignited when you hit an enemy, and then your gas grenades will immediately explode, and this kind of replaces an explosive shot in the setup. Taking a look at gems and numbers here, so we have pretty much common setup here. This damage number may seem pretty low, but I will show you my gear in a second and tell you something about my damage and how it actually is much higher than this number here, for example. I'm not sure how much it is here in the PoE. 1 second. So here it says I have a DPS of 49,000, but actually this should be over 100,000 if I go into my original path of building. So yeah, a lot of damage comes from shocking enemies, increased magnitude of shocking, and some other stuff. But yeah, this is these are the skills with the skill gems. Just want to go over them quickly. You can check them out in my link. We also play with Herald of Thunder. This is because we convert all fire damage into lightning damage with Velakos Vice. This is pretty good, just to make sure that we shock enemies, and especially if your weapon if you don't have lightning damage on your weapon, for example, this is very good. And also the reason why we can make use of Herald of Thunder. So let's take a look at my gear now. And, oh sorry, before we go to the gear, also the Ascendancy maybe. We have Deadeye, as I mentioned. We just take the Mirage Deadeye, Endless Munitions, and Gathering Winds. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, now let's go over the gear. So here, if we take a look at this weapon, I really like the new base, the new crossbow base for grenade builds, the Trathran Cannon. As you can see here, we have a pretty nice increased physical damage modifier prefix. Also then I used an Essence to add a tier 3 flat physical. This already gives us all the damage that we basically need. Then I also hit a tier 2 elemental damage with attacks. And the fun part is in the suffixes. Maybe you also have seen my previous video with the crafting of my crossbow. So here you can see, for example, I have a crossbow with 7 modifiers in total, and here we pretty much have all that we need. So you can also check out that video, but I replaced it with this weapon. Here I just have 6 regular modifiers, but pretty nice suffixes. So first of all, we have grenade skills, fire, and additional projectile. This is what makes or breaks this new base, because the big disadvantage compared to something like a siege cannon, I don't know if I have something here in my shop, I don't, but a siege cannon is usually the endgame base for grenade builds, because it has an implicit with additional projectiles for grenade skills. But you can also get it as a suffix on this new base, then it's pretty much it's pretty viable then, and at some point even overperforms the siege crossbow. So make sure you have this suffix. Then we also have grenades have a chance to activate a second time. This is very important for grenade builds. Also something that boosts our damage in a very high way. And lastly, we have increased cooldown recovery rate for grenade skills. And this modifier is also exclusively to this for this new base, for this new Triathlon cannon base. So both the grenade skills, fire an additional projectile, and increased cooldown recovery rate are pretty rare suffixes on this weapon. And here again I got lucky and got this pretty nice weapon. So this weapon, yeah, has over, I don't know, 500 raw DPS, no, over 600 drop DPS. But again, we also have increased elemental damage with attacks. We also have this additional projectile and cooldown recovery rate. So this weapon is much stronger than the flat DPS is suggesting here. So this number should be way higher. Actually over 100,000 effective DPS. Then the rest of the gear here on the helmet, you want to have evasion instead of armor. This is because we want to get this immunity to poison. So here you can see we get immune to poison if equipped helmet has higher evasion than armor. And poison is much more dangerous than bleeding because we have such high armor value that we can defend against physical damage quite well, but poison is much stronger. So you want to play with an evasion base on your helmet. Here it's also good to have deflection rating equal to evasion rating. And maybe one resistance would be also nice, and then just get as high evasion rating as possible. And on the chest piece, the body, this is actually the heart of my effective health. This unique is not very expensive. We can just price check it quickly, perfidy. So just a regular one, if you just buy it randomly, it costs a few Exalt Orbs. It's not too crazy. Of course, if you want one with higher values for armor and evasion, you have to pay some diffs. I paid, I think, 5 diff for this body piece, but this body piece is just very, very good. So first of all, it gives us armor and evasion rating. We are playing hybrid anyways, so it has very good values for a unique. And then it gives us a ton of additional defensive layers. So we have chance to avoid physical, fire, cold, lightning, and chaos damage. So we basically have a chance to avoid all kinds of damage from hits. And additionally, we also make enemies in our presence. Oh, I actually didn't notice. So you can even see the radius for your presence. This is pretty cool. We make enemies in our presence. So in this green radius here, Intimidate, and Intimidate is a debuff that inflicts 10% increased damage taken and reduced damage dealt. So this makes us even more tanky, deal us more damage, and yeah, just gives us huge defensive layers on top of evasion and armor. So I can highly recommend to try out the setup here. Makes you very tanky. For the amulet, just take one with level 2 projectile skills and some resistances. Also max life is pretty good. On your rings, you want flat fire and lightning damage, max life if possible, and then the rest with resistances. I already mentioned the unique gloves, just converts fire damage to lightning damage, makes us able to shock and deal more damage this way. On your belt, just more resistances and max life, and on your boots, of course, movement speed at least 30%. And then very important, armor also applies to elemental damage. This is a tier 1 suffix roll. This is very important for our defenses and also some resistances. And yeah, that's basically the gear. Then I want to be unaffected by slows. So with this charm, I want to be unaffected by freezes and by bleeding. And I don't have special flasks. So this is the setup. Lastly, let's take a look at my passive skill tree. So as a Deadeye, we start, of course, here. We just want to take this movement speed node for movement speed. Then we just go here into this crossbow, or sorry, the how it's called, the class, the mercenary, into the mercenary tree. Here we go this way. Because we have so much damage with this build, it's actually nice that we can pick up so many defensive nodes. So as you can see here, we have a lot of armor and evasion nodes here. We have some nodes here. Both of these nodes increase my evasion rating and armor. We take movement speed here, and then you can see this cluster, this entire cluster also is pure defenses. So here we have armor and evasion with ailment threshold. Here we have stun threshold. Here we have poison immunity. Here we have armor applies to fire damage, lightning damage, cold damage, and here's a secret node also applies to chaos damage. So these nodes make us very tanky. Here we can pretty efficiently take this lightning and elemental resistances nodes or elemental resistance penetration nodes for some very efficient damage. And again, here I have some defensive nodes and some grenade nodes here and there. So very efficient pathing. We can just take a bunch of effective health and yeah, just defensive nodes here, because the damage is pretty good anyways. And here I have Heart of the Well with some damage as lightning. Ideally I would also have gain damage as fire. And very important here is recover 2% of maximum mana on kill, because mana can become an issue with this build, or with grenades especially. So right now, because I also don't have projectile skills on my weapon here, the mana costs are pretty manageable. But once you get above, let's say 24, 25 levels with grenades, explosive grenades, the mana costs can become quite punishing. So for that reason, it's a good idea to get some mana recovery source from the jewels, for example. But yeah, this is the tree, this is the build. I hope I did not forget anything important, but that should be it. So again, we have a pretty tanky setup here, pretty hard to die for us, and still we deal enough damage to make all the content in the game with Abyss, Rogue Exiles, tier 15 or 16 maps. And yeah, so far I have a pretty good progression. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. I hope I see you next one, and have a nice day, and bye bye.